Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday of game week. The very first game coming up. We're excited. I'm Travis Gailey. You can follow me on social media at Travis Gailey. I'm joined by Aaron Little, who's at Aaron Little OB, and of course, Nash Talks Texas. You don't even need to know his handle. It's right there. Nash Talks Texas. How are you guys?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good.
Man, I'm fired up. We are getting closer every single day. We've got great games on tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, it is almost here. And then my favorite thing about football season is once it starts, there's no stopping. It just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. So, man, I'm fired up.
I'm fired up too, and I got to tell you what else I'm fired up about, fellas. I'm fired up about Elite Sports Memorabilia, the title sponsor for this show. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. And guys, you should be fired up about the deals you can get if you scan that little QR code. It takes you to his Facebook group. You can find all of the memorabilia he's already got in store, in-house, ready to go. Guys like DJ Campbell, guys like Jonathan Brooks, who I've still got my money on as being the big guy this year. All of these guys have signed autographed memorabilia ready for you. Scan the QR code. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. It makes a great gift for yourself or someone else. Nash, I know you love you some Elite Sports memorabilia.
I do. I actually I do have a Jonathan Brooks jersey waiting to go up. I just need to get a frame for it. And I got it from Elite Sports Memorabilia.
There you go. I love it. And, of course, you can also join us on the Specs chat line. Like Rodolfo, he was first in the house. Rodolfo always bringing it. Payton with the hook'ems, he's ready to go. And, yeah, you know what? I said 3 days away, but this is right. It's 2 days and a wake-up. We're so close. Good morning to you, Colby, and good morning to you, Justin. Guys, hey, if the sun's up, horns are up, that's the show, and you know the sun never sets on the Longhorn Nation. So, guys, it's time for a little news of the day. I know we've got football coming up, but we've got some big news in other sports. That's right. Extra, read all about it. The Horns win. I'm talking volleyball. Look, I know it's volleyball, and I know it's first week of football, but, hey, these ladies are actual winners, defending national champs. They went on the road to Minnesota and pulled out a 3-1 victory. Minnesota was the number 5 team in the country. They are a tough team to beat. Texas had been number 1 in the preseason polls. They lost their very unexpected. I still don't know how they did that. They lost to Long Beach State in their first game of the season. So they dropped to number 7 in this week's polls. Doesn't matter. They just went on the road and beat Minnesota. That is a huge win for Texas. Any hot takes on the volleyball guys?
It's impressive, man. I mean, they are a wagon. I mean, if any sport on this campus is a wagon, it is definitely the volleyball team. And yeah, man, it's impressive. One other thing with the chat, man, Rodolfo, you know, you got to turn those notifications on. You know, you can like, subscribe. I know Rodolfo has his notifications on. He is first every single time. I always refer to our producer Blake as just a complete machine because those first couple of weeks he was going like 9 hours a day again and again. Rodolfo is the Blake of our viewers. He is always in the house. It is pretty impressive.
Always there. And he's first, guys, because he does have the notifications turned on. You're going to let him beat you like that every day, day in and day out? No, of course not. If you click the little bell to get the notifications about when the show starts, you could beat him.
You could be like Rodolfo one day, maybe.
Yeah.
And you can drop that like too.
Yeah.
Please make sure you do like this show and subscribe. It's what helps us out a lot. I don't understand the algorithm. I don't understand any algorithm. Not a math. I was told there would be no math. So make sure you do that. Join us in the chat, just like Andrew. I wish I had breakfast tacos, actually, but my lovely wife made me a breakfast sandwich this morning. So I'm pretty good.
There you go.
And you know what, guys? We love the chat line. If you have a question, jump in and ask us one. If you do the super chat, though, guaranteed we're going to answer it. We may ignore your just regular chat. I don't know. We may, if it's a good question, we'll answer it. But I promise you, if it's a super chat, we're there. We love the cha-ching. So come on, guys, hit us up with your best questions. I did want to talk also, by the way, there's a lot of NFL cuts going on, and unfortunately, Colt McCoy is one of the casualties of the NFL cuts, as the Cardinals appear to be tanking for that number 1 draft pick. They're all in on Caleb Williams, it appears. Colt, guys, look, he's had a long career. He's 37 now, 12 years in or something like that. He's been in the league a while. He's had a very good career. Is this the end? Kind of afraid it is.
I don't think so.
What do you think?
I think he's going to get picked up pretty soon. Like he's still a top level backup. Like as silly as that sounds, if you lose your starting quarterback, there's a level of confidence when you have Colt McCoy, who is a seasoned NFL vet who knows how to operate offenses. Because I think that's one of the bigger things is you're not worried about like all these young guys that come into the NFL, their talent is all get out. It's the mental understanding of the game, and there's probably few backup quarterbacks that have a better mental understanding of the game than no, I almost mentioned the other one, Colt McCoy.
Look, don't get me wrong. Colts, I'm not at all even coming close to questioning Colts' talent. It's clear. I mean, you don't last this long in the NFL without being prepared every week, without having the talent and the ability to do it, without being able to show everyone on tape that you've got what it takes to play. That doesn't happen without the talent. But when you start to get this many years in the league, you're also not cheap. He's not the cheap, year 1 first contract quarterback like some of these other guys. So Aaron, what do you think? Does he have another year in him, or could this be the end of the road?
I don't know. It could be the end of the road, and I think that would be okay. His body has taken a punishment. He himself has been good, but he has not gotten very lucky with the situations he's been in. I mean, his very first start of his career was with a horrible Cleveland team in Pittsburgh. He is just getting the living crap beat out of him. Those Giants teams weren't very good. I think the best teams he was ever on was those Washington teams where he was able to start a couple games. If he was going to start for the Cardinals this year, it was going to get ugly. I don't think he would demand too crazy of a contract. I think someone could pick him up if they want. It is pretty valuable. I'm obviously a Chargers fan. They brought along Chase Daniel. They had no intention of him ever. They never wanted him to see the field, even in an emergency. He was just like a second offensive coordinator, basically, for Justin Herbert. And that's what Colt McCoy can be. I mean, he was helping out Kyler and stuff. Might not have completely gotten through to him all the way, but he tried to help out Kyler as best he could. But I think that would be his role. But if not, I'm sure he's going to have a lot of really good post-career opportunities. So I think either way, it's gonna work out well for Colt.
Hey, maybe if he hopped on Madden with Kyler, maybe then.
Possibly. I bet Colt's good at Madden, if I had to guess.
By the way, we got some more chats coming through. Shy Fraser checking in from Ardmore, Oklahoma. Love it.
Enemy territory.
Yeah,
north of the Red River.
Still
bleeds orange. Good morning, Travis Jones as well. The thing about Colt is he's you talked about him being an offensive coordinator. So I watched the season-long version of Hard Knocks with Arizona last year.
Yeah.
And you could tell when they would show clips of the quarterback room, he was breaking stuff down as good or better than, he knows this league. He knows quarterbacking. But what was funny is I never saw any interaction between him and Kyler. There just wasn't. I'm sure they get along. I'm just saying, in the show, you never see any like, hey, buddy, what if you do this? None of that was there. It was just like Colt would talk and Kyler would just be sitting off to the side doing whatever his big head
does. His hoodie on, just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
That was just classic. Yeah.
Sitting in the booster seat so he could reach it, but then his head almost hits the ceiling.
I feel like that's also just Kyler.
Yeah, 100%.
That's who he is. He's just hoodie on. I'm doing my own thing. Y'all do you.
I kind of agree. And going back to our Shy Fraser, yeah, he's repping the horns big time up in Oklahoma, and they hate it. But we love it, Shy. Keep it up.
Shy.
We also got another one checking in from the jungle. Barry, no, wait, which one's the jungle?
I don't know. I'm wondering if he's like, maybe he has some Elon satellite and he's actually in a jungle.
You know what, though? It says Barry jungle? In the PI. Maybe he's saying in the Philippines. maybe. I don't know.
Very
I
please
had
What's
to
the jungle?
clarify where you are.
That's my question.
My head went to Cincinnati with the Bengals and the stadium being the jungle. I'm pretty sure that's not what he's talking about, but I don't know. That's what
The problem now is Barry can put any location in the world in the chat, and we're just going to have to buy it because we don't really have any other options.
Yeah.
They can even make up some jungle name, and
we don't have any
that
geolocating trackers on you guys in the chat. Don't worry. A, we're not like that, and B, we couldn't afford it, even if we were. So, trust government. I don't know. Us, definitely not. I assure you.
NSA has a lot bigger budget than us.
Yeah, we're gonna need a lot more likes.
I'm not going to go there, but I will go back to the cuts list. So we mentioned Colt again. Listen, if this is the end of the road from Colt, that man earned his pension. He's done everything he needs to do in this. He's got nothing left to prove to himself or anybody else. You last, more than 10 years in the NFL. You've proven it already. So if this is the end, then kudos to a career, a well-done career. By the way, it was Colt. It was, what's his name? The Oklahoma quarterback.
Sam Bradford, who was the number 1 overall draft pick, and the Florida Gator quarterback, Tim Tebow. Those three were all together, that linked together. Colt outlasted them all by far. Not even close. Yeah.
Not even close. Tebow didn't even last at quarterback. he got shifted to tight end.
Well, I remember when the first photo videos of him throwing at the direct training camp, and it was like, this dude play quarterback.
Oh man.
By the way, Nino's in the house. Love it. Nino's a regular for us. We love it, Nino. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Scott, I would love to cool down Austin for you. I would love it. Unfortunately, I don't have that power, and I don't think it's going to happen, but safe travels. Should be a good show.
Slowly but surely.
No, I will say, look,
yeah,
74 degrees is some of the best weather that we've had, and in the mornings too. Yes,
that's not bad.
We've had 80s. We've had 80s.
It's still going to be a sweltering day Saturday.
Yes.
And yeah, Barry in the PI Philippines Islands.
Awesome.
Nailed it.
I do have to flex that I will be in the shade, so I'm sorry for all of y'all that will be in the sun, but I will be comfortably in the shade at DKR.
Very nice. I will be comfortable in my air-conditioned house. I mean, if God wanted me to sit out in the sun, he wouldn't have created air conditioning. That's why, And thank you, Barry. We love that you catch us on YouTube. That's exactly the way to do it. Again, it's brought to you by Elite Sports Memorabilia. That's what makes it happen. So, Barry, if you need gear in the Philippines, he'll ship it to you. I promise you. Same thing, by the way, to Shy. He'll ship it to Oklahoma too. He may charge you more for living in Oklahoma, but he will ship memorabilia to you in Oklahoma. So you guys be sure to check that out. There were a couple of other horns that got cut, by the way. Shane Buechele, he's got a Super Bowl ring, but he doesn't have a job, at least not right now. Is he a horn? He's always a horn. He's not a.
Anybody that ever says he's not a Longhorn, I will argue till I'm blue in the face with.
I'm with you.
He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in Texas.
Prominent part of the next segment for me, that's for sure.
There you go. All right, there you go. That's a tease. By the way, we are going to very soon talk about your favorite memories at DKR. Be sure to join in the chat. Stick around for that. But a few more names of note. Anthony Cook was cut. Malik Jefferson, although I don't know, he may end up re-signing. We'll see. Colin Johnson got cut by the Giants. They've got a pretty deep receiving core now. He's not going to make it back in New York. And Deshaun Jameson with the 49ers. That one surprised me. There was a lot of buzz coming out of out of camp with Deshaun Jameson. A lot of people talking about how great he was doing. I'm a little surprised by that. I think they're probably hoping he makes the practice squad, but he may not clear waivers. There may be some team that if they got good tape on him, they could see.
Well, and Jameson was a guy that he actually seemed like he was doing well defensively as well in their camp, not just a special teams guy. So
there you go. And hey, by the way, we talked about the shipping. Look at this. Anthony Showers confirming Elite Sports memorabilia ships even to Japan. Got there a few days ago. You know what? Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for buying something from him. I'm glad you got your gear. I hope you're happy with it. I don't see how you couldn't. And he's not the only Horn in Japan watching right now. Jamie G, diehard Longhorn fan in Japan, staying up to watch the show live. Hey, we appreciate it, James. Love it. Love that you're on here. So, yeah, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the audience, DKR, Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium, turns 100 this year. 100 years old of playing at DKR. First off, that's awesome. There's, 100 years in the grand scheme of things isn't that long. 100 years on a football stadium is freaking awesome. So this is the 100 season that kicks off Saturday when the Horns play Rice Saturday afternoon. And it just got me thinking, what was your favorite memory at DKR? Like, let's start with you, Aaron. You teased it. What happened at DKR that just, when you think of the stadium, that's what you think of?
Yeah, I realized when I teased it, being like, "Oh, Shane Buechele is coming up in the next segment." That's kind of sad. Like about my experiences at DKR, obviously being, on the younger side, haven't got to see much of the success, at least like that I can remember that clearly. But I grew up. We've had season tickets. We still have season tickets. So I've been to a lot of games. But yeah, first one that comes to mind, 2016, Texas Notre Dame. I was there. That was the most exciting, crowd I've ever seen under the lights. Everyone was fired up. I remember a lot of it. I was going back and looking back this morning. John Burt caught a deep ball. That seems notable. Texas had a big lead. They blew it big time. I don't know if people remember. I remember this vaguely, but I didn't remember how late in the game it was. Texas scores to go up by 3 or to go up by 2. Notre Dame blocks the PAT and takes it back to the house to tie the game and send it to overtime. Texas wins 50-47 on the Tyrone Swoops playing overtime. Our seats, Nash, we're also in the shade under the overhang, which is huge. So we're parallel to the end zone, and it was the end zone where Tyrone Swoops dove in for the winning touchdown. So I was like right there on the goal line, higher up under the overhang. But yeah, I got a perfect view of it. But the crowd was crazy. At the time, it felt like a big deal. Texas was back for a second there. Everyone walking out of the stadium was fired up. Turns out both Texas and Notre Dame were just kind of mid teams the rest of the year. But, in the moment, that was the most exciting. So that's my top memory. Bama last year, it was close, man. I was there. That would have been it. But
had they won, yeah. Ironically, by the way, that being a DKR for the Texas Notre Dame game is your biggest memory, because the most notable thing that came out of that game was the call on TV where they said Texas is back. That's what started all the Texas is back mockery. And it wasn't even something Texas did. It was Testatory. Yeah, it was on the radio TV broadcast. So it's ironic that you were there. You missed the call, but that started the whole Texas is back. By the way, this is a damn good point, Scott. Time spent at DKR does not subtract from your life by the big man above. So if you could live your entire life in DKR, you would never die, basically. But you might get a little sunburn. I don't know.
Under the overhang, I'm telling you, that's the spot. If it's raining, I'm good. If it's hot, I got some shade. I love being under the overhang. There you go.
And Scott's with you on that Notre Dame overtime win.
Aaron, I literally am right next to where you were at for that. That's where my season tickets are. And I bought them specifically for the purpose of if we get rain, that I'll be good. And we haven't gotten rain once, so I'm not gonna lie, I am a little disappointed in that.
Well, and if there's a day game where it's really cold, then it's not an advantage because you don't get any sunlight.
It's horrible because you get all that breeze coming through. Yeah, terrible.
Brandon Baker checked in. His favorite game was 2008 Missouri. The crowd was rocking, and I do remember that. That was one of those games that the crowd was so loud, so just hyped and into the game. You could actually feel it through the television. Like that vibe that came through the TV, which doesn't always happen. A lot of times, people will be like, oh, the crowd was great tonight. And if you're watching on TV, you don't really know. You knew in 2008 that game was hype. So good call on that, Brandon. If you've got your own favorite game, be sure to hit up the chat. Again, super chats are the best way to make sure your comment gets read. But for now, Nash, what's your favorite memory?
My favorite memory is actually pretty similar to Scotty B's. He said he was on the sideline for Ricky's run versus the Aggies. Now, mine was actually, this was one of the first, this is actually probably the first game I can actually really remember attending at DKR. My dad took me. I got this little foam finger outside, and we watched. It was the 2007 game versus Nebraska, and I just remember Jamal Charles. He goes off to the right. We're up in the kind of like the nosebleeds area, and he just there's tons of bodies around him. It looks like he's just swallowed up, and then just spits out and goes down the field for just a massive play. And I'll never forget the electricity in the stadium after that run happened, and that's just probably will always be my favorite memory in DKR.
He still may be, Jamal Charles may be one of the most underrated Longhorn running backs from his time at Texas. He had not a quiet career, but I see it right up there.
Yeah, my head's blocked.
Over by Ricky too, by the way, who's not underrated for his time here.
Priest Holmes, another one too.
Priest Holmes is definitely underrated for being a running back. His bowl game in the Sun Bowl against North Carolina is one of my favorite memories. What a stud.
Oh, and also Metcalf. Metcalf was well before his time.
I loved Metcalf, which, by the way, Metcalf was around the time when I'll mention my favorite memory here in a minute. But gosh, I love people who stay the entire game, but dang, that's just masochistic right there.
Yeah.
I have limits where I'm one of those. I love to stick it out. It just doesn't matter. But there are limits, and that's one I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could do that to myself. I'm just wondering if too much.
I'm wondering if Go Astros and just enjoys pain at this point.
That's what I'm saying. It's masochistic. And good morning to the Google Scholar checking in. By the way, this was mentioned already, but yeah, that was a hell of a run. That was a hell of a game to be at. My favorite memory, by the way, is my first game. And that happened because I'm a little bit older than you guys. I don't know if you knew that. That happened in 1986. It was the Texas versus Texas A&M game on Thanksgiving. And my sister was in, I want to say her freshman or sophomore year at UT. We came down, my brother and I came down to spend Thanksgiving with her and go to the game. And that was the first time I went to DKR and went to UT game. And I was already a fan. My brother at the time was an Aggie fan. He's not anymore. So, but that was a hell of a game. But Texas lost. It wasn't that great. The 80s, for the 80s rivalry with Texas and Texas A&M wasn't a great time to be a Longhorn fan at that period. So A&M won. But what stuck out to me the most was we went onto the field right after the game. A lot of fans did. And I look up and I see Britt Hager standing off to the side, kind of walking away. And the nameplate on the back of his jersey was like 3/4 of the way gone. It was just like flapping. And I wanted so badly to walk up to him and go, "Can I have your nameplate?" And I thought, that's just wrong or rude or something like that. And I'm just watching him walking along. And then 30 seconds later, another kid runs up and asks for it, and he just rips it off and hands it to him. And I thought, no, why didn't I do that? I let some other kid get it when it could have been me. And I probably would still have that nameplate to this day, but I didn't want to be rude. So I don't know. I don't think that was rude, but the kid in me was like, I can't do that. That's not right. So that was my favorite memory. Britt Hager, nameplate. It was a bad loss. Any loss to A&M is a bad loss, but yeah, one of Scotty B's favorite horns, Britt Hager, he was a stud, absolute stud. So those are our favorite memories. If you've got other memories, we'd love to see the chat. But for right now, despite AJ's, come on.
We are going to talk about the Alabama game. If you don't think we're going to talk Alabama,
yeah, you can't look ahead, AJ. One game at a time, right? You're going to give a bulletin board material?
Slow, baby.
No,
we don't cook our barbecue fast here, AJ.
That's damn Skippy Nash. That is a good point. It's low and slow in barbecue, and the same with football.
You got to build the flavor up, man.
We're going to start that flavor. We're going to start building the layers of flavor right now. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we talked with Matthew Bartlett from attheRoost.com as part of our scouting report on Rice. We talked to him yesterday, so this tape, don't try to ask him questions because they won't come, but we'll get to that right after this break.
Corey Redding, the linebacker from Galena Park, North Shore High School, USA Today rated him as the best high school defensive player in the nation. That's incredible. Today he verbally committed to play his college ball for Mac Brown and the Horns. He's the kind of defensive difference maker the Texans hadn't been able to get in years past, so it appears things are changing.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the most important recruiting wins in the history of the Texas program. Former five-star defensive end Corey Redding out of Galena Park, North Shore. To completely understand the significance of Redding's commitment, you have to understand the context surrounding the recruitment. Redding's recruitment occurred just 2 years after another five-star defensive end, David Warren, bypassed the Longhorns in favor of Florida State. New Texas head coach Mac Brown was trying to put the finishing touches on a number one ranked recruiting class, but he had to overcome the stigma that great defensive players didn't go to Texas and that the Longhorns couldn't go into the Houston area and land a truly elite player that didn't play his football in the suburbs. It wasn't going to be easy for the Longhorns, as Redding's top three included Colorado and Arizona, with the Wildcats having a big edge with Corey's brother Chris already in the Arizona program, which had his mom wanting both players to play their college careers together. Colorado was actually viewed as a potential party spoiler, but while Redding was on his official visit to Boulder, CU head coach Rick Neuheisel took the Washington job. And that basically eliminated the Buffs. That left Arizona and Texas to duke it out. And when push came to shove, Redding couldn't leave the Lone Star State. Moments before he announced his decision, Redding informed his mom that he was selecting the Longhorns. He told her, quote, "I'm a Texas boy. I want to go to college in Texas, marry a Texas woman, and have Texas babies," while she broke down in tears at the news. Moments later, he told the world the news.
Corey Redding, in 1998-99 season, will be attending the University of Texas.
Redding's commitment sent shockwaves throughout the recruiting landscape as Mac Brown's dominance in recruiting in Texas began that day and rarely slowed down for the next decade and a half. The Longhorns finished with the number one overall recruiting class in 1999, with the USA Today's Defensive Player of the Year representing the cherry on top of a very tasty sundae.
Spent time with him and myself, and I was like, I want you to put it on my mind the next morning when I wake up. When I woke up, my hands was holding up that hook sign.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to bring to you Matthew Bartlett, director of attheRoost.com. There's nobody better to talk about Rice than Matthew. Matthew, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. It's finally football time. Kind of snuck up on us, right?
3 days away. I cannot wait. Matthew, tell me real quick. This is a new conference for Rice. I mean, before we get to Texas, what's the mood and the vibe going on down in Houston? How's the team feeling? What are you hearing?
Well, everybody's excited, right? In this age of realignment, you're either moving up or getting left behind. So everybody that got to move up is happy. Everybody that didn't is looking for some payback, I guess.
Yeah, we know a thing or two about conference realignment at UT as well. So this is going to be an exciting game. It's the first game. Rice is a bit of an underdog. There's no other way to put it. They're a 35-point dog. Are there any expectations of a victory, or do you think Rice is coming into this looking to work on things and make a game of it and get going? How do you think they're approaching this?
I mean, the good old coach speak answer is they're playing to win, right? But that's what you want. That's what you want them to say. But I think it's particularly interesting with Rice because, like you said, that nobody outside of South Maine is expecting the Owls to contend in this game, and they're just fine with that. You look at previous games they've had a fourth quarter lead on Arkansas a couple years back under Bloomgren, took Baylor to the wire, took Wake Forest, good Wake Forest team, to the wire. They've played some Power 5 programs really close, have a undefeated or a win over a top 15 undefeated Marshall squad on the road a couple years back. So they've gone and played against teams that they were supposed to have no shot against and hung in there. So I can understand nobody expecting them to win, but this is not a team that is going to roll over and just show up and collect a paycheck.
Yeah, I get that. And you're right. That's the attitude you want your team to have coming into the game. Now you've got a new quarterback, JT Daniels. Texas knows a thing or two about JT. In fact, this is his third start at DKR for a third different team, which, by the way, strangely enough, that would tie him with Hudson Card for the number of starts in Austin at DKR, believe it or not.
Well, I know he's 2 behind Quinn, right?
There you go. Yeah. So he's well aware of what DKR feels like. He hasn't succeeded yet. But how is he at DKR? He hasn't succeeded. Let me preface that. But how is he fitting in with the Rice program? How is he coming along? What are you hearing about him as he's made the transition this summer?
Well, I mean, first, he didn't win the games at DKR, but you're looking at a guy who has like 550 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and like 60-some-odd% completion. So he's played pretty well, all things considered, in Austin against some good Longhorn teams. But as far as how he's kind of fitting into Rice, Rice has done the journeyman quarterback roulette before, where they've gotten a guy this guy like got a cup of coffee on a Power 5 team, or this guy played at a group of 5 squad and played 1 snap with Vanderbilt, and kind of you get what you get. But JT, he played really, really well at USC, got hurt, lost his job, played really well at Georgia, got hurt, lost his job, played pretty well at West Virginia. And that was the only time he actually got benched and told to look elsewhere. So he has a good track record as a college quarterback. And man, he's playing he jokes about being, a 15-year veteran at this point, and he plays like you would expect it. Rice has played a bunch of young quarterbacks under Mike Bloomgren with injuries and everything else, but having a guy who's officially, unofficially a 6th-year player who knows what he's doing, can command the offense. It's night and day, man. It's so different. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, you talked about all of the changes in college football, and I was reading an article about JT this summer at the media days, and he was talking about how much change he's seen since he's entered the game of college football. And it is kind of bananas. He's been around so long that the conference he started in is literally about to die. That's how
long it exists anymore.
Now, when he's not going to have to carry the burden alone, obviously. He's got another famous, well-known name, Luke McCaffrey, to get the ball to. That's the leading returning receiver for Rice. Rosner, of course, left to go to North Carolina State. But he sure looks like he can get open.
Yeah, I'll never forget when he announced that he was transferring to Rice. He had just previously gotten off a stint as a starting quarterback at Nebraska, and he was going to go play quarterback at Rice. So I pull up his highlight tapes at Nebraska, and I watch him. I believe they were playing Penn State, and I watch him make a wrong read on a QB keeper where he should have handed it off, and he did not. And he gets meet face to face with a blue chip 5-star defensive lineman, and you're like, you are dead. And somehow you blink, and he's 30 yards downfield, and the guy didn't touch it. And I saw that. I was like, okay, that'll play. And had a shot at quarterback at Rice, ended up transitioning to wide receiver, and kind of last year was learning on the job. really his first year, he joked, since like catching in the backyard with his brother playing wide receiver. And so year 2 as a actual college wide receiver, a couple spring balls, fall camp, he actually has the wide receiver part of the game down, in addition to, the bloodlines of his dad and his brother and his entire family. Like, he's an incredible athlete. There's a bunch of places where Rice and Texas will go toe-to-toe, and Texas will have a clear talent advantage. McCaffrey will very much so belong on Saturday.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. He's going to be a handful for the DBs who are used to facing talented receivers just in practice, but he's going to get his. He's looking like an NFL-style wide receiver to me. I think he's got a chance to go in the draft when he comes out. Nash, do you have anything right now?
Yeah. So I actually, one of my former buddies was one of the Rice great offensive linemen recent years, Calvin Anderson, who transferred to Texas. That's a little cool plug for my guy right there. But he's doing well too. He's still bouncing around in the NFL. But I wanted to ask, I know JT and McCaffrey, they're gonna, their names, they're gonna get the fanfare. Is there anybody on defense that we should watch out for that might cause an issue for Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, I think there's 2 guys that in particular that are notable. We talked about, big names with bloodlines. Gabe Taylor is probably the guy in the secondary for Rice to look back on, younger brother of Sean Taylor. And he's interesting because he didn't start playing football until his senior year of high school. Was going to go do basketball, was getting recruited to play basketball, and then last second change of heart, said, okay, I'll try football. And so he's only in his 3rd or 4th year of playing competitive football, and is kind of learning from ground zero. So every year, he hasn't had this. I've been playing this position since I was 6 years old. This is my 13th year being a quarterback or whatever. So he's kind of really gotten better, and you can see it. And he is a force in the secondary. He's a guy who just finds the football. So he's one. And then Josh Piercy, he's built like a Greek god. He kind of plays their rush in position. They'll move him a couple different places. If the Texas offensive line is going to want to make sure they're aware of where somebody is, it'll be him.
Yeah, that's a fitting last name for somebody that looks like a Greek god.
Yeah.
How is it possible Sean Taylor's brother wasn't playing football until just recently?
He kind of, after everything that went down, and wanted to kind of, do his own thing and make a name for himself. And when, for one reason or another, he kind of changed his mind literally last minute, decided as a senior, I'll go play football. And I'm trying to remember, I think he had 11 interceptions his senior year of high school, only year playing. And I think he returned 7 of those for touchdowns.
Gosh.
So he's pretty good.
Those are the players that you got to watch out for too. The guys that they don't start playing, then they come on really late, like an Isaiah Nair.
Yeah, real talent plays.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let me pop back over to the offense side of the ball real quick. When I've been trying to figure out the run game for Rice, I'm not sure who's going to lead the carries. Who's looking like they're going to be the guy, or is it going to be a total rotation in the backfield?
It's going to be a tandem between Juma Taviano and Dean Connors. And Juma is a guy, this is his 6th year at Rice in this system under Bloomgren. If there's anybody who knows the offense and the running scheme, it's him. And has kind of, played a couple different roles, been a kick return guy for a couple of years, and really came on strong end of last year. Kind of had his debut came, this was back in 2019, or no, end of 2018, rushed for 220 yards, 2 touchdowns against Old Dominion. Wow. And kind of that was the talent, kind of breakout as a true freshman, and has kind of been, nicked up, buried under the depth chart. And he's kind of reemerged, and he's been running really, really well. And then Dean Connors is a guy who ended up playing essentially 3 seasons in the COVID year, played JUCO, high school JUCO, transferred, ended up here. And so last year they were like, we got to ease this guy in because we don't want to break him. You can't play, 30 football games in the span of a year and a half. So last year kind of, easing in training wheels. And training wheels are off. And he is a pass catching threat out of the backfield, slasher, powerful runner. So those 2, Rice likes to run the football. You'll see both of those guys in there a lot.
Connors is a track guy, right? He's got high end speed.
I don't know if he played track, but yeah, he can get up and go.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned Rice wants to run the ball. Is that Mike Bloomgren's love language? He wants to eat the clock, run the ball. I mean, Rice was actually pretty balanced last year, 50% run, 50% pass. But if I had to guess coming into this game, he's going to want to run the ball. But it seems like the best talent that he has is in the receiving game. Is that a fair summation?
Well, first off, pound the rock, control the clock, and play great defense is the mantra that Bloomgren has reiterated to me 1,000 times. So that is the game plan, period. It doesn't matter who they're playing. That's what he wants to do. But I think it's interesting. In prior years, everybody has known that. That's been his mentality, and they haven't had a quarterback that will make you pay if you cheat. And so opposing teams, we saw this against Texas past couple of years, you stack 8 in the box and you make Rice throw it. And if the quarterback can't beat you, it doesn't matter if Rice wants to run. But I think that's going to be the great equalizer this season. That's what Rice is hoping for with a quarterback like JT Daniels, somebody who can complete, 60% of his passes career at DKR plus passer. If you got a guy who can hit the open man when you got favorable numbers on the back end, all of a sudden other teams aren't going to be able to put 7 or 8 in the box. And when that happens, you can run the ball better than you've been able to. So yeah, they want to run the ball. I do think you're going to see a bit of a balanced attack because Rice is going to take shots to kind of force that running game to stay open.
Let's talk about the other side of the run defense. That's been a little bit of an area of struggle. Rice has some talented players, but they're compared to the Texas offensive line, they're undersized. Are they going to be able to hold up at the point of attack and stop the Texas run game? Because that's what Sark wants to do too. He always says, he's known for his passing game, but his running game is what he prides himself on. So what can Texas fans expect to see from Rice on the rush defense?
Well, the past 2 years, the run defense at Rice has kind of suffered. And the big reason for that is Braylon Carroll missed all of the 2021 season and was playing hurt throughout all of 2022. And this is a guy who was defensive MVP, Duncanville High School, big 6A football program in Texas as a defensive tackle. Defensive tackles don't win MVP very often. That's unless you are a game changer, and he is. And so back when he was on the field in 2020, Rice had a top 15 defense in the nation. And it's not as simple as reducing it down to one guy, but man, they feel a lot better with him on the field in the middle. And yeah, he is undersized, but I make the joke, you give him 2 inches and maybe he's playing at Baylor or Texas Tech. You give him 4 inches and he's playing at Texas. And he's one of those guys that has not been afraid to say, yeah, well, you got an extra inches, watch this. So he'll be a guy to watch. They really also like Blake Banish. He's another big guy in the middle who is coming on, a younger guy down from Needville, and then a guy, Isaiah Floyd. So they finally have some depth and some real talent on the inside, which is kind of where they've been lacking in recent years. They haven't really been able to go too deep. And this year, they kind of feel a lot better about that. So I do believe they'll be better against the run. It will help that Texas does not have Bijan and Roshan back there, and they'll have, maybe a mortal human running the football.
How about you, Nash?
Hey, Jonathan Brooks, he's got the vision. So
he's good. I'm not hating on him.
But I get what you're saying. But I know this might be looking forward a little bit, but y'all play Texas and Houston back to back. What's your thoughts on the Houston game? That seems like it could be a fun game this year.
I think Rice fans are really excited for that game. This was a game that literally went down to the final play in the fourth quarter a year ago, interception in the red zone to end the game. And this is a game that, Texas is replacing Clayton Tune and Tank Dell. Derek Parrish, a bunch of their big hitters. It's still a really talented football team. Like, nobody's sleeping on that. But this is a team that Rice feels like they should have beat last year. And Rice is better. They have better players. They have retained a lot of their talent, and they have a quarterback. So, yeah, I think you look at getting a chance at Texas and Houston before you go into the heart of the conference slate. Rice is really, really hoping they can get at least a win out of those 2 games.
Well, it feels like from what you were saying, that y'all have some really sneaky talent with like McCaffrey. He's going. This is his year that he's getting let loose. Taylor, he's going to let it loose this year. It feels like y'all might be able to catch some teams off guard.
Yeah, this is the team. This is the most talented team that Rice has had in quite some time. Bloomgren has now signed the highest rated class in school history 4 times in the past 5 years. So this is bar none the most talented Rice team that has taken the field in at least the recruiting ranking era.
You know what? I love to see that. I love to see Texas or Rice doing good. And I want to see y'all doing good in baseball too. I can't wait to see that again.
I'm all aboard. Let's do it.
I'm okay with the football, but let's not get carried away on baseball.
Rice and Texas have had some good games on the diamond.
They have.
Very
I mean,
good, yeah.
it's just it's a brand. It's one of those baseball brands that if you don't respect it, then you're a really young guy and you hadn't been around for too long.
You know, you talked about top 4 classes in Rice history out of the last 5 years. That's really impressive. You're coming off a bowl game, not a victory, but a bowl game. You needed the GPA to get there, but you expect that at Rice. You're going to have a strong team GPA. But are they going to be able to build on that, even stepping up in the conference play?
Well, that's the marching orders, right? Like, what have you done for me lately? Like, Rice got in last year. It was kind of fitting they got in with grades because it's Rice, but also there was a bit of a frustration feeling like this was a team that could have not had to sweat out the final minutes and wait to see if there was going to be enough teams. They felt like they were better than that. And I feel like this year they believe they're a better team than they were last year. So I think the expectations, bare minimum, are you got to get to at least 6 wins and you got to get to a bowl game. They want to win it. And I feel like it's reasonable. And you look at, there's a step up in competition, but you got to remember, in the midst of all the realignment shuffle, half of Conference USA that Rice was already playing with went up to the American. So they are going to be playing some tough teams. SMU is on the schedule. Tulane is on the schedule. But they were playing Charlotte. They were playing FAU last year. Like they said, there's some familiar faces. So it's a tougher schedule. There's no doubting that. But this is not like they jumped up into a division of heavyweights. They are completely unprepared to play. They've played some good games and beaten a lot of these teams before.
All right, then I'm going to put you on the clock here. What's your conference prediction? What's your overall season prediction for Rice?
I think, like I said, 6 is the floor. You got to get there. I think 7 or 8 is in the wheelhouse. And if JT Daniels is JT Daniels, he's a very good quarterback. This is a team that should contend for the conference.
And Saturday,
we'll see. One of the things that here's the thing that is frustrating or interesting, maybe at least, about the University of Texas is you look at this matchup on paper and you're like, okay, Texas, I get it. But we've seen that same matchup apply so many times, and Texas has all of a sudden not been Texas when the lights turn on. And that's a part, whether it's, penalties is an area where this team has struggled, just execution, even protecting the football at times, running in short yardage, even with the size advantage that, they would have. There's all these things that on paper, you're like, it should happen, and then it doesn't. And Texas as a team, at some point, you got to do it before we start believe, the joke, like Texas is back. Like they haven't left talent-wise. Like the talent is still there. They're a great football team. But are they going to play like it on Saturday? And I think that's you look at Rice's history of playing some of these good teams really, really close. You look at Texas' history of like, hey, you might get great Texas and you might not. And if you get not great Texas, like buckle up, because this is a team that believes. And, whether or not that's a reasonable belief or not, those are the teams that are scary to play against.
Love it. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a decent but not great day Saturday, and we'll talk to you again soon. We really appreciate you joining the show.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best defensive playmakers for the Texas program over the last decade. I'm talking about edge rusher Joseph Osai. Osai was one of the best players to come out of Tom Herman's 2018 recruiting class, although he was a low 4-star prospect who only ranked number 31 in the state by Rivals.com. Not a single recruiting service had him ranked as an elite prospect or inside of a national top 125 list. When we look at Osai's recruitment, it was pretty cut and dry fairly early on that there were 3 schools that stood out above the rest. From the summer of 2017 all the way into October and November, Osai kept a top 3 of Texas, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. Of the Longhorns, Osai said that Todd Orlando and Oscar Giles used the following sales pitch on him. Quote, "They tell me I could be that Nashawn Hughes type of player. When I watch some of these close games that they've been in, I can place myself in that defense and see myself making the moves to finish those plays. I watch how I could impact the defense and picture helping some of those close games be wins." The battle eventually turned into a Texas versus Texas A&M battle, with Tom Herman's staff taking on a Jimbo Fisher staff that had just replaced Kevin Sumlin. In fact, the Aggies had been considered the heavy frontrunner for Osai, but the dynamics of his recruitment changed the moment Sumlin was fired from Texas A&M. It was the opening that the Longhorns dearly needed and received. In fact, by the time January had rolled around, Orangebloods was reporting from an A&M source that the Longhorns had taken the lead for Osai. On the last weekend before signing day, Osai took a surprise official visit to Oregon, but it still turned out to be a battle between the Longhorns and Aggies all the way up until signing day, when he eventually chose the Longhorns.
All righty, guys, that was the preview for Rice. You know, it struck me he ended talking about Texas is never, they've always had the talent, was whether they're going to play to that standard, which I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of hearing that narrative. And the only way to stop that, one of the things I want to see this Saturday, the only way to stop that narrative from happening is Texas just has to execute, right? I mean, they've got the talent to destroy Rice. It's a 35-point spread for a reason. They need to go out and just play their game and execute and do it with, like Sark said Monday, punching back. Give every team they face their best game, because every team they face is going to try and give Texas their best. It's time they fight back. They need to go out with attitude, and they need to just nail Rice by executing the way they play, regardless of whatever Rice does, because it doesn't matter what Rice does, right? What do you think, Nash? What is it you want to see?
I want to see execution from whatever. I don't care what string you are, what it is. I just want to see execution. I don't want to see any, because this is a game where we win the physical battle, right? I don't want to say anything bad about the Rice guys, but they're not Texas dudes, right? It's a different level of athlete.
It's kind of like picking on a kid, right?
Yeah,
you're like,
but you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to Rice, and they're very smart people, so they're going to be just fine. But yeah, these guys, man, it's just I want to see that. I want to see limited penalties. I don't want to see mental errors, because mental errors, and you guys as baseball guys, y'all understand this. Mental errors are the ones that get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%, Nash. I mean, that was one of the main things I wrote down that I was looking for is, the mental errors, just playing a clean game. I don't want to see any busted coverages. I don't want to see any guys, false starts. And I know that's a lot to ask. Some people are going to be like, hey, it's game one. This is when you make the mistakes. But when you've got Alabama on the road week 2, there's no time for false starts or jumping off sides or, busted coverages in the secondary. I mean, that stuff needs to be cleaned up now. So I'm hoping to see that. I mentioned it earlier in the week. I want to see multiple deep balls of over 40 yards completed by Quinn. I mean, if Malik or Arch hit some deep balls, that's great. I want to see Quinn Ewers hit some deep balls. That was a big thing that worried me last year and worried a lot of the fans last year. But yeah, those are the two mains I'm looking for. It'd be good if they could dominate on the ground as well. Man, shout out JT Daniels. I was looking back at it this morning. That guy's has a lot of life experience, man. Starts in USC. He's in Hollywood. Goes to Georgia, gets the whole Southern experience, gets the whole SEC deal. West Virginia, you get an experience there, that's for sure. It's a different type of experience than you get in Los Angeles or Athens, Georgia. And now he's at Rice, just with all these smart guys. I mean, that dude has been around the block. He's been to DKR a few times. But, I mean, when I was just looking USC, Georgia, West Virginia, Rice, I was like, man, that guy's seen it all. He's seen it all.
By the way, fellas, we do have a super chat in the house. $5 from Jay Lee. Thank you so much, Jay. And no, we weren't ignoring your super chat, so you don't get a refund. We just hadn't got to it yet, Jay. Sorry, buddy.
He was late. Pre-recorded video.
Yeah, I mean, it was a recorded segment.
It was a pre-taped interview. Sorry, Jay. You may have missed that when we said it was a pre-taped interview.
We did miss our crystal ball where we didn't read into the future to.
That's right. But we got you now, Jay. We got you. You just wanted to say I always enjoy your perspective and things on. Hey, you know what? Geez, Jay, I should be paying you $5 for that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And see, guys, that's how it's done. You put in the super chat, you do get read. I promise you. It's going to happen. And seriously, Jay, I really, truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Which does remind me, by the way, guys, and you're very welcome, Jay. And Nash says it's all good. It is all good. Guys, we've got coming up on Orangebloods today, which if you're not a subscriber to orangebloods.com, you very well should be. I'll have my Just a Bit Outside weekly column coming up. Going to be talking more Rice. We have things that weren't talked about in this will be a part of the printed word. So be sure to check out that column. I hope you do. I'm also going to be talking about Sark. This is the year for Sark. It's make or break time. Because if he doesn't succeed with this team, he's in trouble with his time at Texas. So I'm going to be talking about Sark and what he needs to do in this season, starting now, starting Saturday, what's got to happen for Texas. We've got that coming up. Also tonight on OB Live, we've got on another episode of The Outsiders, special guest star BJ Johnson. God, you know, see, when one of your hosts is Chance Mock, you get guests like this. BJ,
you can get some special guests.
That's going to be an awesome show. You know what? Even if they don't have guests, that's a fun show to watch, period. Mm-hmm. So I hope you guys do tune in. You know, we're not Chance Mock, so our guests are guys like Matthew Bartlett. But hopefully you learned something because he brought some good stuff about Rice. And I doubt many of us are doing deep dives into Rice ahead of time, right? So hopefully you learned a little something about the game coming up this weekend. Guys, any closing words, anything you want to throw out there before we head out the door?
I just want to say I love all our guests. I think they're doing great. They bring their own. I appreciate the early morning grinders. I appreciate our guests, everyone watching, everyone liking the video, subscribing to the channel. We've got Anwar coming up, old-fashioned sports show from 8 to 11, House Divided with Catch and Chad, 12 to 3, Football with Friends, Alex Dunlap, 3:30 to 5:30, and then, of course, The Outsiders. You do not need to change the channel. You don't even need cable. You just need a computer, a phone, hook it up to the TV. Orangebloods live all day. But, yeah, I mean, I'm fired up. We will be back tomorrow with even more football talk. But, yeah, that's all I got. Nash, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, our guests so far have been amazing. They're setting the bar high. Yeah, Chris and Matthew have been awesome. But, hey, Longhorn fans, enjoy this season and don't blink because it's going to be going fast. Like this thing, it's crazy how slow it takes to get to the season and how fast it just goes through.
It's like a kid before Christmas. You're waiting, dying, wishing it would come, and then the next thing you know, it's like, what the heck?
You wake up on December 26th, and you're like, what? Yeah. Where was my day? Where was the day I planned for?
Christmas is almost here, Saturday. And speaking of guests, not to overlook things, because we just got through saying you got to savor the moments, right? I mean, in all of life, but especially in Texas football, you got to savor the moments. So savor Rice. But we've got a big guest coming up next week to talk next Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we're going to be doing our scouting report. Already got a big guest lined up to talk about Alabama. You won't want to miss that. And like Aaron said, we've got wall-to-wall Texas football coverage for the rest of the day on OB Live. Stay tuned. Coming up next is going to be Anwar's, the old-fashioned sports talk show. Be sure to tune in for that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are right back here again tomorrow morning at 6:30 Central. Be sure to tune in. Love the show, guys. Love having all the viewers. Love having the chat. Thank you so much, Scotty B, checking in one last time on the Specs chat line. And I'm going to give one last shout out to Elite Sports Memorabilia. You want to pop that up for me, Aaron? Guys, hey, I just said it's almost Christmas. You know, it's actually not almost Christmas, but it's coming up. It's never too late to start buying gifts now so that you don't get in that rush. You won't find a better place to get Texas Longhorn gear from the athletes with the money. By the way, that money goes to the athletes as part of their NIL deal that they have with Elite Sports Memorabilia. It helps them out. It helps out the Longhorns. It helps out this show. Be sure to scan the QR code. There is some awesome gear available for you guys. All you have to do is pick up the phone, scan that little QR code. You can get DJ Campbell. You can get Jonathan Brooks, which Nass has already bought, and it will be hanging on the wall soon. You can get, coming up, he's got Malik Murphy signed. That signing will be happening. His autograph session will be happening very soon. You can pre-order your Malik Murphy memorabilia now, and he ships. We said earlier, oh, look at that. Someone's on board with the scanning the QR code.
Don't
We
wait.
love it.
Don't wait. It's limited supply.
Nash will
We
buy
love
all
it.
of the products himself.
I will. I'll buy it all.
Corner of the
I'll buy
market.
it all.
It is a limited supply, and that's why you got to get on it, just like whoever that was. We love it, but what's more, you're going to love it. So, again, I'm Travis Gailey. Follow me on Twitter at Travis Gailey. For Nash, at Nash Talks Texas, and Aaron Little with at Aaron Little OB. Be sure to check us out there, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.